Okay, well, let's see if we can get this recorded now.
Yeah, we had a whole other episode ready for you, except we had about 1,000 technical difficulties. So we're going to try again.
Yeah, we recorded it twice, and both times it messed up, and so we're going to try this again and see if it works this time. I think we've got all of our bugs fixed. I think we decided we were on episode 6.
Yes, 6 2.0.
Christmas has come and gone.
New Year's has come and gone, unfortunately. Our episode was supposed to come out on New Year's Day, but again, technical difficulties.
Yep, so hopefully everybody had a happy Christmas and that they enjoyed their New Year's festivities, whether that was going out and partying hard or staying in and playing video games or sleeping.
Hope those of you who made resolutions haven't given up on them quite yet.
I didn't even try this year.
I didn't even attempt to make a resolution this year because I know myself.
No. I liked that meme we were reading earlier that was like, I'm not going to make a resolution. The years need to be better, not me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the year's turn to do it.
I saw something the other day about most people give up on their New Year's resolution by the second Friday in January.
Oh.
They even have a name for it, but I forgot what it was called. But
yeah,
apparently it's like an official date where people have already given up on their New Year's resolutions by.
Wow. Yeah. That makes sense. I saw another one that was like that somebody should open a gym called Resolutions and they collect the membership fees and then like in 2 weeks in turn into a bar called Regrets or something like that.
I'm still sick, so I sound lovely.
Oh, right. Yes. Faren has a funny voice because she's been fighting a cold for the last couple of weeks. She's coughing and I'm yawning. Okay, so let's do this before I fall asleep.
Let's all try to get through this together.
Okay, so we're going to start the year out with some cowboy ghosts.
Some different cowboy ghosts.
No, it's the same cowboy ghost.
Same cowboy ghost. Thought we were doing a different one.
No, I decided just to do the same one.
Okay.
I had a different one that I was kind of starting, but I'll save that one for next time.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so we're going to talk about the St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico. And Cimarron, New Mexico is kind of in the northern part of New Mexico. It's north of Las Vegas, New Mexico. I've never personally been there. But
it's not on the way to anywhere, so no one really has a reason to go to Cimarron unless they're going to Cimarron on purpose.
Yeah, it's not really on the beaten path. It used to be. So this used to fall on the Santa Fe Trail. So it was a hip happening place in the 1800s when we were talking about the Wild West. And the St. James Hotel was built in 1872 by a French chef named Henry Lambert. He was the personal chef to President Lincoln until President Lincoln's assassination.
Then he was out of a job.
Very much so. And I don't know, so I got most of my information from Wikipedia about like the history of the hotel. And an article called like Legends of America, I think, and then from Ghost Adventures, because this is where I first saw this story, was in Ghost Adventures. But between Wikipedia and the Legends of America article, I couldn't tell. It said that President, oh no, I've lost his name now. One of the presidents that came after President Lincoln either encouraged Henry Lambert to... Faren's being disgusting with her tea right now.
I'm trying to take a drink, but it's making horrible noises.
Either encouraged him to be President Lincoln's personal chef or encouraged. Every time my computer does something now, I'm terrified that it's going to stop recording because that's what it did the other day. Okay, so sorry. So he either encouraged him to be the personal chef of President Lincoln or he encouraged him to move west to start his own business.
To go west, young man.
That's right. All right. So either way, he ends up in Elizabethtown, New Mexico, hoping to make a gold strike, which I think we all do. And after he found a little gold, which is more than I can say for myself. He opened a saloon and a restaurant.
I have found literally none gold.
Yeah, I've never found any gold. I don't know.
Think of the people that gold rushed, hogged it all, because
they must have.
I've yet to find any gold in my lifetime.
Yeah, even whenever we do like those gold panning things, there's not ever any gold in those
Every
things.
once in a while there's like some pyrite, but
that's fool's gold.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the closest I've ever gotten.
It's because we're fools. So we only find fool's golds.
We're fools for thinking we're going to find any gold, especially at a tourist trap.
That's correct. Especially after they have put those things into the sand for you to put into the thing to sift out. Yeah, they're not going to give us any gold. Okay, so this is Elizabethtown, New Mexico, which is same area of the state as Cimarron. And Henry Lambert caught the eye of Lucian B. Maxwell, who owned much of the part of the state that included Elizabethtown and Cimarron, as part of the Maxwell Land Grant, which was the largest land grant ever made in the United States. So not just in New Mexico, but all of the United States. Like, this was the biggest one. So Maxwell talks Lambert into moving to Cimarron, where he went, and he founded the Lambert Inn, which is later renamed the St. James Hotel. And he started with a saloon that quickly became popular with cowboys, traders, and miners and the travelers on the Santa Fe Trail. And also keep in mind, as we're telling the story, that this man is like a renowned French chef.
Yes, which I think is funny considering what Cimarron is today. You know, they apparently needed a fancy French chef, and nowadays you're lucky to get, you know, a decent hamburger.
I mean, I don't know. They might have great hamburgers there. We've never been.
I just mean in those parts of the state in general, like,
yeah,
you're lucky to find food at all.
I mean, and so when I was watching Ghost Adventures, they were talking to like one of the cooks in the hotel, because it's a hotel and a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And Zach basically made the point that, like, I mean, whether the ghosts are attacking you or not, like, you have to work here because there's no other place to work. And so, I don't know. Someday we'll drive that way and we'll see what it actually looks like. Okay, so anyway, so it's moving and shaking because it's on the Santa Fe Trail. All the cowboys, all the traders, all these people are going through there. He added guest rooms to turn it into an inn in 1880. And some pretty notable names stayed there. So Wyatt Earp, his brother Morgan, and their wives stayed there for 3 nights on their way to Tombstone. Jesse James stayed there frequently, apparently, and he always stayed in room 14 and used his alias R.H. Howard whenever he signed in. Bob Ford stayed there, who eventually was the person who killed Jesse James. The outlaw Davy Crockett, not to be confused with the, like, pioneer Davy Crockett.
Frontiersman.
Yeah. This was a descendant of the original Davy Crockett, but this one was an outlaw. He killed 3 Buffalo soldiers in the hotel bar in 1876.
Nice guy.
Yeah. Buffalo soldiers were black soldiers, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so, and I was thinking that, but I didn't.
As far as I know, those are the only ones that were referred to as Buffalo soldiers.
Okay.
From what I can remember from, you know, history classes in school, which were not great, so I could be wrong, but as far as I know, that's who the Buffalo soldiers were.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you know who Clay Allison is?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Doesn't sound familiar to me either, but like whatever, like on the list of names, he was on there and had like a link where you could go like read more about him. I didn't. Black Jack Ketchum, who was a train robber. Buffalo Bill Cody, who was a goat ranch manager for Lucian Maxwell for a time. He was there so often that he was asked to be Henry Lambert's son, Fred's godfather. And Buffalo Bill nicknamed Fred Cyclone Dick.
Cyclone Dick.
And only because he was born in a blustery snowstorm.
No other reason than that.
No.
Just Cyclone Dick.
Cyclone Dick. Just keep saying it over and over. It'll make it less bad.
It'll lose all of its meaning, and then we won't have to worry about
well,
how hilarious it is.
And so I guess he was even there as the boy was growing up because he taught the boy how to shoot guns. Fred, or Cyclone Dick, if you prefer, eventually became the sheriff of Cimarron, a member of the tribal police, and a territorial marshal. And I just wonder if he kept that as a nickname or if he was just Sheriff Fred.
Or Sir Sheriff Cyclone Dick.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Annie Oakley also stayed there. And I don't know if she knew Buffalo Bill before staying there or not, but while they were both staying there, they started planning their Wild West show. And when they left, they took an entire village of Native Americans with them for their show.
Whether they took them willingly is another story that we don't have an answer to.
But I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if it was by force or not. I just know that it's everything I read says that they took them. Okay. So, who else? Bat Masterson, Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett, the artist Frederick Remington, Governor Lew Wallace, which for New Mexicans, Governor Lew Wallace was pretty famous because he was the governor during the Lincoln County War with all of the Billy the Kid stuff.
He was supposed to pardon Billy the Kid.
Yeah, so he was kind of famous for all of that stuff. But for people who are not from this area...
He wrote Ben-Hur.
Yep. So that...
Don't know if he's famous for anything else outside of New Mexico other than writing Ben-Hur.
Yeah. And also the writer Zane Grey stayed there a lot. New Mexico was still a territory at this time. And so it was still very much the Wild West. And so because it was the Wild West, there was little to no law and order. And, well, Cyclone Dick hadn't become the sheriff yet. No. And because this place was so popular, it was rowdy and it could be host to several outlaws at a time. And so it quickly became notorious for the amount of violence that took place there. And it was said that 26 murders took place inside of the building, which is a lot of murders.
Yes.
Yeah. And...
Was that before or after we mentioned the amount of bullet holes?
Oh, yeah, I haven't got there yet. So the first question that was asked every morning in Cimarron was, who was killed at Lambert's last night?
And I ask a similar question every morning when I wake up, but, you know.
And, yeah, and the fancy French chef. This is his legacy. He goes...
Who got murdered at your fancy French restaurant?
He, went from being the personal chef to the president of the United States to people being murdered on the regular in his saloon. All right, so Lambert's Inn eventually died down when the railroads were built and took away the travel from the Santa Fe Trail. The gold discoveries were slowing down and Cimarron's population started dwindling. So Lambert soon fell into disrepair. Henry Lambert's sons went in to do some work in 1901, and they found more than 400 bullet holes in the ceiling of the saloon. And so I guess whenever they were doing the work, the ceiling was fitted with a double layer of heavy wood so that the flying bullets wouldn't kill the people staying in the rooms above. So apparently this was something you had to keep in mind when building these things because...
And when staying at Lambert's.
People were just shooting their guns willy-nilly. And it is said that in the dining room of the hotel's restaurant right now today, there are still like 22 bullet holes.
But what I was saying is 26 murders to 400 bullet holes, you know?
Yeah.
That's...
a terrible shot.
You're either a terrible shot or, I don't know.
They're just shooting for enthusiasm. I don't know. Like, they get really excited. New Year's Eve. I don't know. It's bad.
It's a wild place.
It is well, it was the Wild West. All right. So Henry Lambert died in 1913 and his wife Mary died in 1926. The hotel passed ownership many times and went through periods of being abandoned. In 1985, it was bought and restored, and in January of 2009, it was purchased by the Express W Bar Ranch, who did more extensive renovations to the property. And as far as I know, they're the people who owned it up until this last September. So that was the history part of this. So now let's talk about some ghosts.
Some ghosts.
So guests and staff have many unexplained experiences. A former manager was quoted as saying, "You never see them, but you feel and hear them." There are unexplained cold spots, the smell of lingering cigar smoke. It's supposed to be a smoke-free hotel, so there shouldn't be cigar smoke. Things are constantly falling off of the shelves. random electrical malfunctions, which I always say it was built in 1870.
Our house has random electrical malfunctions.
And was also built in 1870. So, and things falling off the shelf, that also is something that happens to us often just from
the house being rattly.
Yeah, so who knows? It could be ghosts. Sometimes we blame ours on ghosts, so there's always that. Lights turn on by themselves. The second floor seems to be the most active place for ghosts. There is, so there's the original building, that's the inn and the saloon part. And then they had, I don't know when it was built, but there's a more modern, like, addition that was built. And while I was watching Ghost Adventures, one of the housekeepers said that she and their boss were working in that room, and the TV remote flew from the dresser to the bed while they were cleaning. There, I guess, are some activity in the modern part of the building as well as the original part.
Even though there were no cowboys in there?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was built after that. So, room 17 was Mary Lambert's room, and Mary Lambert did die in the hotel. I don't know if Henry Lambert died there or not, but Mary did. Her rose-scented perfume is often detected in the room. If the window is opened, persistent tapping can be heard until the window is closed, and others have seen a milky, transparent woman in the hallway. Let's see. A former owner of the hotel said that she saw a pleasant-looking cowboy standing behind her in the mirror in the dining room. And I don't like that, because I don't want to see anything in a mirror besides what I expect to see in the mirror. I don't want to
expect to see cowboys, I guess.
I don't want to expect to see cowboys in a mirror. Unless I am somewhere where there are alive cowboys. I don't want to see cowboys in a mirror. I don't want to see anything except my reflection and anything that I already know is behind me. Let's see. The cook of the hotel, this is kind of what I was mentioning a minute ago, said that he felt something burning on his back while he was working in the kitchen, and they pulled up his shirt and he had 3 scratch marks down his back. He and his father said that the spirits would even follow them home and mess with them. The dad said that he would, be laying in bed and he would feel something like poking his foot. I just wondered if that was diabetic neuropathy. The mischievous spirit of a dwarf-like old man named Little Imp shows up sometimes. He plays tricks. He's said to have stuck a knife in the floor between 2 owners. He is blamed for things mysteriously disappearing and reappearing in places they don't belong. So I think he lives in your bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
He
should knock it off.
He should. And they don't ever mention this ghost in the Ghost Bros episode. It was just on the Legends of America article. Mm-hmm. But on Ghost Bros, Bill Chappell, who is the electrical engineer, inventor guy that goes with them sometimes, he had investigated the hotel with another medium and was using the structured light sensor camera, the SLS camera, the stick figure
the dancing
camera.
Stick figures.
Yes. While the medium was channeling a spirit, and a stick figure ghost that was small was kind of dancing around the guy like it was trying to get his attention. And I was wondering, because I had already read this article before I went back and watched the episode of Ghost Adventures, and so I was kind of wondering if that was who that was, because it was very much smaller than the guy, and he was kind of dancing around.
Could have been. It sounds impish.
It does sound impish. Okay, so on Ghost Adventures, a cowboy shape, let me back that up again. On Ghost Adventures, there was another housekeeper who said that she was in the bathroom and a cowboy shape mist or shadow or something walked through the stall that she was in and then walked back through the stall that she was in.
He didn't realize it was occupied.
Maybe he should have checked the lock on the door.
He's used to just walking through walls,
I guess. Well, I thought it was rude. Let's see. I lost where I was. In the Legends of America article, a former staff member said that he was working at the front desk when he heard a loud shriek come from the corner of the room, and it startled him and he looked up. There was no one in the direction the sound came from, and there were other people in the room, and they didn't seem to have noticed the shriek. They were just doing whatever they were doing to begin with.
All right.
There also on that article were a couple of stories from readers. One of them was from the 1980s, or I guess this happened to the man in the 1980s. A man who installed payphones was in the area, and he had heard about the hauntings at the St. James from watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And so he wanted to stay at the St. James Hotel because he had heard about how haunted the place was after seeing it on Unsolved Mysteries. The first time he stayed in the Zane Grey room, and there was a little mirror hanging on the wall that was swinging back and forth. And he went over and he stuck his finger up against it to make it stop. And then he looked in it hoping that he would see a reflection. He's the opposite of me.
Mm-hmm. He wants to see a ghost in the mirror.
I don't want to see a ghost in the mirror. He was hoping to see a ghost in the mirror. He did not see a ghost in the mirror. But he had made the little thing stop swinging. And so he walked away. And then he turned around and he looked at it and he said something like, "Oh, you don't want to play anymore?" And it clicked a couple of times again, and then it stopped. He stayed several more times without any incident, but he claims that he always wanted to play poker in the poker room of the hotel, which was down the hall from his room. So on his last day, he heard some voices calling out names of poker games, and he went down there, and there were 3 men and a woman, all in period dress, sitting around the table playing poker. And they asked him if he wanted to join, but he didn't have enough money for the buy-in, and he went back to his room. The next morning, he got up and he glanced in the room as he was going downstairs, and it was empty and clean. He asked the person at the front desk as he was checking out if there had been any big winners in the poker game from the night before, and the clerk was confused because there was no poker game, and he was the only guest staying in the hotel that night.
Well, and like we mentioned before when we recorded this the other night, some people think that things like this aren't necessarily a haunting. It's that, you end up in basically a parallel universe that's happening in that time period, because time is, supposedly cyclical or circular,
right.
not linear. And so you can slip into these parallel world type things where you're actually stepping into a time when this is still going on. And so you look just as weird to them as they look to you. And
right. And so it's like you're seeing ghosts,
and
but they're also seeing ghosts. Yeah. So that would be weird. Or even if it was just a simple matter of
a haunting.
He just saw ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he did say that he was disappointed that he hadn't stood there and talked to them longer, because if they, really
since they
had
didn't
been ghosts,
technically exist in his time, or, were ghosts or whatever, then...
And he was interacting with them, because he said that he asked them, they asked him if he wanted to join. He asked what do they call it? The ante? And they said that it was $20, and all he had was $20.
Or the buy-in or whatever.
Yeah. And so, he said that since the buy-in was $20 and that's all he had, he wouldn't have had any money to bet with. And so he just went back to his room. So on Ghost Bros, they put the stick figure camera in the poker room, and they do see a stick figure standing on top of the table. Later, Zach and Bill, the electrical engineer, not Billy, are sitting at the table, and they get some EVPs. Zach says, "Hey, TJ," which we're going to talk about TJ in a minute. "Hey, TJ, here are some poker chips for you." And they get a voice that says, "Thank you." They ask if he got killed playing poker, and they have a voice that says, "I'm dead." And then Bill asks what they do sitting in the place, or it must be boring sitting in this place or something. And they get a voice very clearly saying, "Smoke." And later, they even, Nick comes up and they're like, "Hey, listen to this." And he heard it and he was like, "Smoke?" He was thought it was funny because it was very, very clear that that's what it said. Because how sometimes they're like, "This is what it says." And you're like,
you kind of listen to it and you're like, I guess, but
it could also just be something garbled. Yeah, but that one very clearly. Another story off of that Legends of America site said that a ghost hunting couple reported that they gathered some strange sounds from room 18, which is a room we're going to talk about more in a minute. The husband said that a hand touched him while he was in bed, and he said it was not his wife's, and then she felt fingers gliding over her hand. They woke up at 3 o'clock, of course.
The time when all the things happen.
To a scream coming from within their room. And they also said that they took a picture of a window on the second floor, and in the picture you can see a face looking back at them. I could not find this picture, and I don't know why they would gatekeep that picture if that was... I mean, why wouldn't you show everybody that picture?
If you take a picture of a ghost, show everyone your ghost picture.
Right? All right, so... As Zach and crew are checking the cameras, so the cameras are all positioned in the place, and they're in like their nerve center or whatever, and they're like checking all of the things to make sure they're recording correctly. They notice that a chandelier is swinging outside of room 18, and you can see it. The chandelier is swinging, and there's nobody around. Nick was supposedly by himself upstairs in another part of the hotel, and he goes back to that area and he sees the chandelier swinging, and he says that it wasn't swinging when he walked by earlier. I just have the hardest time with these shows whenever those things kind of happen, because I'm like, how do I know that you don't have a PA somewhere?
Who swung the chandelier.
And then got out of frame, and then that's why the chandelier is swinging. Or even in other cases, like, how do I know that you don't have somebody upstairs dropping something to make a loud bang when you're in another part of the building? Like, you say that you're the only people in the building. I don't
have proof of this.
Yes. Which is my problem. I want proof of everything. I
need to be there, okay?
I need to do that Harry Potter spell where they check to see if there's, like, humans in there. And then maybe I will believe that it was a ghost that dropped the ball.
Yes.
As I often do.
Yes.
Let's see. So, a guest had fallen on the stairway of the hotel and was hospitalized with severe head injuries. And the story goes that she was getting ready to go to her room, and someone told her, "Don't let TJ bother you." And she responded with, "Oh, I'm not afraid of him." And I guess she said some other taunting words and things like, "I don't believe in ghosts, and if you're here, bring it on." And when she was going up the stairs, she felt like someone picked her up underneath her arms and threw her over the banister.
And that's what happens when you taunt a ghost. You get yeeted off the stairs.
And this was the moment when we originally watched Ghost Adventures that I said, this is why I won't go there.
I don't want to get yeeted by a ghost.
Because even if we weren't staying in the hotel, somehow I would end up going up the steps and making TJ angry, and he would throw me off of the staircase. And so, yeah. She immediately started apologizing to the ghosts when she regained consciousness, and said that she believed in them.
I now believe in ghosts, now that I've been yeeted off the stairs.
Yes.
Now I totally believe in ghosts.
So during the Ghost Adventure walkthrough, Zach, of course, attempts to taunt TJ to get him to throw him off the stairs, but he doesn't get any readings or anything. Let's see. Room 18 is said to be the most haunted room in the hotel, so this is where we're going to talk more about TJ. It's so haunted that apparently it's padlocked shut. They don't let anybody in there. TJ seems to be pretty angry and mean and throws people off of staircases.
That's his room. You can't have it.
Yes, and so they do consider it to be an occupied room, and they don't stay there. A housekeeper said that when they did let people stay in there before, that people have gotten sick or died after they stayed there. It is haunted, like I said, by the spirit of Thomas James Wright. They call him TJ in the hotel. And the story is that he was playing poker with Henry Lambert, and he won the deed to the hotel in the poker game. And he was walking back to his room, and when he was right outside the doorway, he was shot in the back, and he crawled in his room and he died. which I guess would make anybody angry.
I would be a cranky ghost who yeets people off the stairs too if not only did I get cheated out of the hotel that I won, but then I got shot in the back. And
Yeah. So, the room holds only a bed frame with no mattress, even though on the Ghost Adventures episode there was a mattress, a coat rack, a rocking chair, a chest of drawers with a Jack Daniels bottle on it, a tin of Copenhagen, a basin and a pitcher, a deck of cards with shot glasses, and on the wall is a picture of a half-naked woman.
anything that a cowboy ghost would possibly need.
Absolutely. A housekeeper on the Ghost Adventures episode said that he and his wife were walking down the hall, and the padlock on the room was swinging for about 15 to 20 minutes. And they know that it was 15 to 20 minutes because they gathered things to go clean another room. They went and cleaned the room. They came back. The thing was still swinging. So the next day, the same man was walking down the hall, and he reached out and swung the padlock just to see how long it would swing if you just swung it. And it stopped almost immediately. And so after that, he said, I believe in the ghosts here.
You know what?
I can't explain this. It must be a ghost. During the previous investigation that Bill Chappell had done with that other team, they got an EVP in that room saying to get out. When the ghost bros go inside the room the first time, though, they get nothing. Zach doesn't even get any of his feelings. He didn't get angry or feel sick or cold or any of hot or, I don't know, any of the things that he usually gets.
Scratched.
Yeah, none of those things. So Jay starts hearing sounds coming from the room. And he sends the guys back in that direction because at this point they were in the poker room and they start hearing noises from outside of the room, like maybe footsteps. And so they train the SLS camera into the room and they see a stick figure. And this is one of the cool ones because this is where Zach asks the stick figure to raise its hand, and it does. And then he asks it to put its hand back down, and it does. And so I always say that the stick figure camera is one of the ones that I find the coolest as far as the ghost hunting equipment goes, because it, to me, is the hardest to discount.
Yeah. It either has to be completely faked or it has to be 100% real because...
Yeah, because, we talked about, the one that has the radio frequencies that, that's makes the big loud noise, and that one, it's scanning radio frequencies, and so sounds are going to come through that as it's picking up radio frequencies. And the way that's supposed to work is that the ghosts are supposed to be able to channel that and give their answers through that or whatever. But since it's already making noises, you can interpret that however you want to interpret it, because that's just human nature. Just like the noises, the EVPs, it could be a garbled sound, but you might hear "I'm dead" or something.
But they usually say that the way that they know that it's real is that it'll be a consistent sound over several channels because it's quickly scanning through channels, and so you'll get the same voice throughout however many times it's switched channels since then.
Right. I just think that with the stick figure thing, because if you are scanning a room that has a flesh and blood person in it, the thing tracks you as a stick figure because it's tracking a person and it sees you standing there as a stick figure. But if there's nobody standing next to you, but there's a stick figure there, it's tracking something else that's humanoid, and there may be nothing there but a blank wall. And so to me, that's the one that I think is cool, because I don't know how else to explain that other than they would have to just be really good actors and edit it in there later.
But especially we've mentioned before, the ones where they're obviously doing something in the situation that a person who had been there in the past would be doing in that situation. One time on one episode, they show a bandstand and you can see several stick figures that look like they're playing musical instruments. Or they're at like an army hospital one time and one of them is laying on the bed and you can see a stick figure next to the bed like trying to operate or like check vitals or something on whoever's laying on the bed. Like,
right. And so again, that would have to be completely edited after the fact. But in the moment, those guys would have to be acting and saying words to have somebody go in and like edit that into the picture later. So to sum up, I think the stick figure one is cool. So let's see, where was I? So Aaron was still down in the poker room while they're doing this, and they're like, he starts walking back towards them and he hollers down to them, "Hey guys, you know what's weird," or something. And then he's like freaks out and starts running down the hallway, and they're like, what was that? And he was like, "I don't know, what was that?" And he said that he heard a little girl giggling behind him, and they radioed down to Jay and Billy, and they said that they also heard a little girl giggling on their end of whatever they were recording. Let's see. So because Aaron was super scared, in true Zach fashion, he locks Aaron in the room.
As he does.
And Aaron is funny in this part because he tells the ghost of TJ, because room 18 was TJ's room, "Hey TJ, I don't want to be here any more than you do. So if you're angry, you can go get Zach."
Mm-hmm.
TJ does not go get Zach. Nothing really happens. I kind of feel like maybe he heard something like settle or something, but it wasn't really anything. Zach and Bill go back to the room and use the white noise machine to ask questions, but they don't get any EVPs. But they do hear something like in real time, like not going back and listening to the recordings, but they can hear like with their ears. It sounds like somebody tapping on the plastic blinds that are behind the bed. And right after that, Zach puts his camera over in that area, and you see kind of a ball of light come from the area of the blinds and then zigzag across the bed. And they zoomed in on it, and it doesn't look like it's a bug or anything, so who knows. Jay does hear some sounds, like after everybody's out of the room. There's a whole scene at the end of the episode where it's just Jay sitting at Nerve Center listening to room 18, and you can hear, like, it kind of sounds like somebody whispering, and then you hear the mattress springs and then some boot steps, but that was like the most that they got out of that room. In September of this year, the hotel announced...
Last year.
Oh, you're right. When we recorded this the other day, it was this year. So
still technically December.
September of 2024, the hotel people announced that they were closing the doors forever, but it was bought, and the new owner said that it would reopen on December 20th. I don't know if that happened. That would have been a couple of weeks ago. But that's the story of the St. James Hotel.
That is that, and hopefully our equipment decided to cooperate this time.
Well, I can see the little thingies as we're talking, so I think that is good. It was a whole host of unfortunate events. I mean, the first night that we sat down to record, it stopped recording in the middle, but we didn't know it
because we weren't watching the thing.
And then we decided, well, we'll just go back and we'll record the second half of the episode where it had cut off, and that was really good, except that then when I went back to listen to it, you couldn't hear Faren at all. It was real bad. And so I just scrapped the whole thing and said we were going to start over. So hopefully this works out and I won't have to do that again. Like, this would be the haunted story.
Yes.
We would just have to scrap this entire story and start over, because it would be TJ being angry that I said
talking about him,
that he was going to throw me down the stairs. So as always, remember you can find us on social media at Twisted and Mysterious. You can send us story recommendations or your own stories. You can email us at twistedandmysteriouspodcast@gmail.com.
And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. And remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.